Hi folks, yesterday we did some work on vectors and today we're going to do some work on combined vectors. This is the vector A, and what we did yesterday was we looked at describing the direction and magnitude of this vector. What that means is basically how far across and how far up does it go. So the first thing we do is we go across. That's gone 4 squares forward. The top number, remember, I'll go through that in a minute, that's gone 4 squares forward, so the top number is forwards and backwards, left and right, so I'll put a 4 there. It's a positive 4 because we went forwards because of this direction. The next one I'm looking at is these, that's 2 squares up. It's positive because we've gone up. Now the thing that I went through yesterday was that these numbers, if I'm going forward, it'll be positive. If I'm going backwards, it'll be negative. If I'm going up, it'll be positive. And if I'm going down, it'll be negative. But that top number always describes the left or the right, and that bottom number always describes the up or the down. Now, what the question asked us was what is A plus A? And what you might remember from algebra, that's the same as 2A. So they're asking us, what's the direction and magnitude of this vector 2A? So, have a look at the picture. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've gone 8 to the right, so it's positive. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I've gone 4 up. So that's also positive. Just for a minute, just have a think about what's this vector A? This vector A is 4, 2. So what have they done? Have a look at these. What have they done to get to this? All they've actually done is times it by 2. So when you're working with vectors, whatever you do to the vectors, that's just what you do to the numbers. If we've got 2 of these vectors A, then we just need to double the vector A. So, here's an example of question 7. Sorry, ignore the question 7. Here's an example. The first thing I'm looking at is I'm looking at vector A. So have a look at it. What is that vector? It's gone 1 across. And it's gone 2 up. Next, pause the video and have a go first if you want. Next, I'm looking at that vector B. What's that vector B? Have a go. Hopefully you got 3, 1, because we went 3 to the right and 1 up. Now the thing that we call this resultant vector, this A add B, that's the one that shows the total movement. By doing the movement of vector A and vector B, that results in a movement of 4 across and 3 up. Now what you might notice is that if you add vector A to vector B, 1 add 3 is 4, 2 add 1 is 3. All I've done is add the numbers. So what actually happens with these vectors is we don't need the picture. We can actually just do it with the numbers. So I want you to think about here, I want you to think about how I'm setting them out and what we're actually doing. So for question 1A, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write out vector A. Second thing I'm going to do is write out vector B up here. Then all I'm going to do is add them together. So the resultant vector is 5, 7. Pause the video and have a go at B. I'm going to go through the answers, make sure you've tried it. Vector B is up here. It's 2, 7. Vector E is here. -1, -2. Then I'm going to add them together. Now, this is where you might start to make mistakes, and the reason being we've got negative numbers, so we've just got to be a little bit careful. We're doing the sum 2 add -1. Now, what you might want to do is you might want to start writing some of these out before you put them into your vector. 2 add -1, that means I'm going to subtract them, so that's 1. 7 add -2, that means I'm going to subtract them, so that's 5. What I think is really important is that you write down the calculations you're trying to do, because if you've got a lot of negatives going on, it's going to start getting a bit complicated. Next question. What I want you to think about, what's this vector 3c? What do you think that means? It's not just c anymore, it's 3c. So have a look at vector c, but what do you think? I'm not going to write vector c. What do you think I'm going to write in my vector that I need to add? 3, 12. What I've done is I've took vector c and I've multiplied it by 3, because that's what it's telling me to do. So 3c is vector c multiplied by 3. Then I'm going to add on vector b. Well, that's not going to change. That's still going to be 2, 7. Now, I'm not going to write these ones down. Everything's positive. It's probably going to be quite easy. I've got my 3, add my 2. That's adding the top ones together. And my 12, add my 7. Looking at the next question. Vector A is 3, 0. What do you think vector 2e is? What I'm going to do to this vector e to get vector 2e? Well, I'm going to double it, because that's what that says. It says 2e. Now, again, might be the negative numbers that catch you out. But if I am doubling the vector e, I get -2, that's double -1, and -4, that's double -2. Now, next what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the top numbers. I'm going to do 3 add -2, and I'm going to do 0 add -4 on the bottom. 3 add -2 is 1, 0 add -4 is -4, so that's the resultant vector. Okay, now we're going to look at some subtracts, and again, the problem is not going to be with what you're actually doing, it's going to be with your negative numbers, so just be careful. Vector A is 12, 15, and I'm going to subtract vector B, which is 7, 3. So the calculations that I'm doing, 12 take 7, and 15 take 3. So the only difference really here is that I'm subtracting some numbers. So I get 5, 12 as my resultant vector. Have a look at the next one. You might want to pause the video now and try this yourself. Now, I'm hoping you've paused this one and had a go at it. And I just want to check, did you do these calculations? Did you do 12 take 2 to get the top number? And did you do 15 subtract -5? What does this mean you actually need to do? This means you need to add, so that would actually be 10, 20. So be really, really careful with those negative numbers. Looking at the next question, pause the video now, but think really carefully about what needs to go in these brackets here, in these vectors. It's not vector C, it's vector 2C and vector 2B. Pause the video and have a go. Okay, so the calculations we should have done are 2 subtract 14. Be careful, that should be -12. And 16 subtract 6, which should be 10. Okay. Still going. Next question, pause the video and have a go yourself. First of all, think about what vectors you're going to subtract. Okay, just double check that it is these vectors. I had to multiply vector B by 6 and I had to multiply vector A by 4. Now you're going to have to think about adding them together. Make sure you got the right numbers. If you haven't, correct them and keep going. So the calculation we're trying to do is 42 subtract 48 to get that top number. -6. Next we're trying to do 18 subtract 60. negative 42. Okay, so there's some of the harder ones. The ones you're going to do today, they're not as bad as that. They tend to be slightly more straightforward, but the bit that's going to trip you up is the negative numbers. So I would really, really advise you to write the sums out and then do the questions. Just so you know how to fill in the Hegarty clip, what this Hegarty clip is asking you to do, this question here is asking you to do vector A add vector B, which would give you 11 over 7. So it wants you to put 11 in there and 7 in that one. You are going to do this Hegarty clip now. This is Hegarty Maths clip 625. It has been set for you. Thank you.